There's so many fascinating details when it comes to the Parah Adumah, and without looking carefully at the Mefarshim, it's hard to even know what they are. Each word of the pasuk can contain a lesson and a halacha that impacts our understanding of the mitzvah as a whole. We understand that fundamentally the Parah Adumah is about finding a way to use the ashes of this Parah Adumah combined with the other ingredients in order to sprinkle on the person who is tamei meis, the person who is ritually impure from having come in contact with the dead body, so the person can become tahar. But after the entire process is completed, the Torah says, "V'asaf ish tahar sefer ha'parah." A person who is tahar, a person who is ritually pure, has to gather together the ashes of the parah, v'iniach mechutz la'machana, and place it outside of the machana, b'makom tahar, in a place that is pure, v'yisol adas b'nei Yisrael l'mishmaris, and it should be for b'nei Yisrael as a safekeeping, as a safeguarding. What exactly is the Torah telling us? Where does it get placed? So Rashi tells us, based on the Mishnah Maseches Parah, Beiniach mechutz lamachana, that you put it outside of the machana. You had to divide the efer hapara, the ashes, into 3 groups for 3 different purposes in 3 different places. Echad nasan bahar mishcha, one was placed on har zeisim. Echad mischalek lechol mishmaros, one would get divided up amongst the 24 different groups of kohanim who would come to serve in the mikdash on a rotation. Be'echad nasan bechel, and one was placed in the chel, an area in the mikdash. Zeh shel mishmaros hayachutz lazar. Where did each one go? The one for the mishmaros went outside of the azara. Why? That was the one that was practically used if somebody needed to find a place to be able to the ephah in order to be able to become tahar. The one that was on har zeisim, kohanim gedolim, the paros acheros mekajnei menu. The kohanim gedolim would be there in order to prepare themselves and for other parah adumahs that would need to get done in the future. What about the one in the chel? It's just a requirement. The only reason it's there is vaysa lebnei Yisrael mishmeres. It should be a mishmeres. It should be a remembering. Very interesting. Which is the most important? Not sure, but presumably Parah Adumah, the ephah parah, is something functional. The one which is the mishmeres is a bonus. But what's interesting is that it seems the Torah is highlighting it. When the Torah describes it, it talks about the mishmeres more explicitly than the other ones. And Rav Sadia Gaon, in his Sefer HaMitzvos, actually says, "Upar le'mishmeres," that you have that the part of the mitzvah is, and the one he mentions is to put it as a mishmeres. It seems to be that this idea of putting it as a mishmeres is very fundamental. And perhaps what the Torah is trying to teach us is that specifically this point, do not think that the Parah Adumah is just functional. Do not think that it's only to make sure that somebody who is tamei can become tahar. But there is a greater purpose of the Parah Adumah than just that. And maybe that's part of why we read a Parshas Parah. Okay, so you have to get in advance of Korban Pesach. You have to make sure that you're tahar. But why is it so significant that we have one of the 4 Parshas about the Parah Adumah? What's the important lesson that's there? Why is it, if you think about it, if you look at the opening psukim of the Parsha, before it goes through all of the details of the Parah Adumah, before it even tells us what it's for, there's something about the Parah Adumah and the ephah itself that is a remembrance. What is that remembrance? Perhaps it's a deeper idea that even one who has become tamei can return back. Even the person who has veered, the person who is in the deepest type of tumah, that person can still return. And on a practical level, that is done through the ephah parah. But on a spiritual level, it is so much more important to know that that is a possibility. And that is the mishmeres, that it should always be there, so that somebody can see, look, even if I fell, even then there is a process, there is a way to return. And maybe that's part of why the contradiction that exists in trying to understand the mitzvah of Parah Adumah, which is called the chok. One aspect of it is that the one who is misasik, the one who prepares it, not the one who actually sprinkles it, that final person does not become tamei. Chazal tell us, but the people who are preparing it do become tamei, even though they are tahar. And perhaps that lesson is that in order to help people who are tameim to come back, sometimes we have to be metamei ourselves a little bit. a little bit. We have to get down, make ourselves a little bit dirty in order to be able to bring others up, because that is the critical idea of the Mishmeres of Parah Adumah, is that Klal Yisrael and Jewish people always have the opportunity to be able to come back. And however distance we went, however distance we may have fallen, even a Tamim Mace, there is the Efer HaParah, which is there, the Mishmeres, and the people who are hopefully willing to help bring you back up, and that you can serve that role in bringing others back up as well, so we can all become closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.